Not during the crime, but I was there afterwards and I watched the removal of the body.
John Gacy is a notorious criminal who got away with murder for years by hiding his victims' remains in his own house. Gacy's chilling tale reveals a sinister chapter in criminal history.
His name is John Wayne Gacy, convicted of killing 33 innocent people and destroying hundreds of lives.
Where the macabre reality is as stark as the cold, hard ground that was hiding his gruesome deeds. Brace yourself for a journey into the dark recesses of a killer's mind, where secrets lurked beneath floorboards and terror lingered in the shadows. Early life. Born in the heart of Chicago on March 17, 1942, John Wayne Gacy, the second of 3 children, grew up in a world of hardship and instability that would shape his sinister path. His father, a World War I veteran and auto repair machinist, was a harsh figure, verbally and physically abusive to his family. Gacy, of Polish and Danish descent, found solace in his mother and sisters, since his relationship with his father was marred by relentless belittling and misuse. From a young age, Gacy faced the brutality of his father's temper. The echoes of being called dumb and stupid, and being compared unfavorably with his sisters, lingered in his memory. The breaking point came at age 4, when his father unleashed physical punishment for a minor mistake involving car engine components. Despite the turmoil, Gacy cherished an unspoken love for his father, yearning for approval that never materialized. Gacy's childhood was marked by adversity. An overweight and unathletic child with a heart condition, he was prohibited from sports, further alienating him from his peers. Blackouts in the 4th grade led to hospitalizations, and a burst appendix in 1957 exacerbated his health woes, causing a decline in grades due to prolonged absences. His father dismissed his medical struggles, accusing him of feigning illness. As Gacy navigated adolescence, his life took several unexpected turns. In 1960, at 18, he immersed himself in politics, facing disapproval from his father. A car, which was a gift from his father, came with strings attached, as the title remained in parental control until Gacy paid it off. In a defiant move, Gacy procured spare keys and left for Las Vegas with $136 in his pocket, seeking refuge with a cousin. Gacy's stint in Las Vegas led to a bizarre chapter working in the city's ambulance service and later at a mortuary. There, he confessed to an unsettling incident involving a teenage male's coffin, a chilling precursor to his future crimes. The experience prompted Gacy's return home, where he enrolled at Northwestern Business College and graduated in 1963. He joined the workforce, landing a management trainee position with the Nunn-Bush Shoe Company. In 1964, Gacy's life took a more conventional turn as he moved to Springfield, Illinois, working his way up to department manager. Engaged to Marlynn Myers in March of that year, Gacy seemed to be settling into a semblance of normalcy. However, the facade crumbled when, in 1965, he disclosed a disturbing encounter. A colleague from the JCs coerced him into a drunken, unwanted, intimate act. This revelation hinted at a darker side to Gacy's life, foreshadowing the horrors that would later unfold. From a troubled childhood to unsettling experiences in Las Vegas and a mysterious incident at the mortuary, Gacy's journey to becoming one of America's most notorious criminals was well underway. Twisted path. After returning to Illinois, Gacy crossed paths with Marlynn Myers, his first wife, in 1964, at a shoe store. The two tied the knot and relocated to Iowa, where Gacy worked for Myers' father and engaged with the JCs, a leadership organization. Rapidly climbing the ranks, he became vice president in 1965, using unconventional methods like stag films and parties to recruit members. Trouble surfaced when a 15-year-old JC's son accused Gacy of intimate coercion, resulting in a shameful conviction in May 1968, leading to a 10-year prison sentence. Despite this, Gacy's charm prevailed in prison, where he served only 18 months. Released in 1970, Gacy returned to Chicago, settling in Norwood Park Township. His house at 8213 West Somerdale Avenue became a hub for parties, while his construction business, PDM Contractors, employed several teenagers. Juggling politics, clown performances as Pogo, and a second marriage to Carol Hoff in 1972, Gacy's life became quite tumultuous. The marriage ended in 1976 after Hoff discovered mysterious wallets and complained of a foul odor emanating from beneath their house. Between 1970 and 1978, Gacy faced several arrests and investigations. In 1971, he was apprehended for attempting assault, but charges were dropped. Police probed Gacy in 1975 and 1976 regarding missing boys, but found no evidence. Accusations of battery in 1977 were dismissed, and another arrest the same year went unprosecuted. However, on December 11, 1978, Gacy reached a sinister climax. Robert Piest, 15, disappeared after informing his mom he was meeting a contractor for job prospects. When Gacy failed to appear for questioning, suspicions grew. A search warrant uncovered a receipt belonging to Piest's co-worker. Police, led by Officer Michael Albrecht, intensified surveillance. On December 14, 1978, a search of Gacy's home revealed a high school ring belonging to another missing boy, John Syke. Gacy's reign of terror was unveiled, marking the beginning of the end for the notorious killer. First crime. On a chilly January day in 1972, John Wayne Gacy embarked on a sinister journey that marked the beginning of a gruesome chapter in his life. The night before, after a family gathering, he set out for the Civic Center in the Loop to marvel at ice sculptures. Little did 16-year-old Timothy Jack McCoy know that his path would intersect with the chilling fate Gacy had in store. Cruising the streets after midnight, Gacy encountered McCoy at Chicago's Greyhound bus terminal. With the promise of a night's stay and a ride back to the bus station, Gacy convinced McCoy, bound for his father's home in Omaha, to join him on a Chicago sightseeing tour. Unbeknownst to McCoy, he would later be identified as the infamous Greyhound busboy. As morning broke, Gacy's dark side emerged. Claiming McCoy brandished a kitchen knife in his bedroom, Gacy retaliated violently. A struggle unfolded as Gacy disarmed McCoy, attacking him and ultimately taking his life. In the aftermath, Gacy callously washed the weapon, nonchalantly noting the breakfast set for two by McCoy before his gruesome demise. McCoy's lifeless body found its final resting place in Gacy's crawl space, concealed beneath a layer of concrete. In a chilling revelation years later, Gacy admitted that the act left him totally drained, yet strangely exhilarated, describing the experience as a twisted thrill. Fast forward to a dark January morning in 1974, Gacy plunged into his second act of brutality. The identity of this victim remains unknown, strangled and stashed in Gacy's closet before burial. Gacy recounted the macabre details, revealing how bodily fluids oozed, staining his carpet. To prevent a gruesome repeat, Gacy adopted the grisly practice of stuffing rags, victims' underwear, or socks into their mouths to contain any leakage. These early chapters in Gacy's crime spree paint a haunting picture of a man driven by a perverse satisfaction in extinguishing lives. The cold brutality and calculated actions reveal a disturbing pattern that would unfold in the annals of criminal history. The sinister thrill that Gacy derived from these heinous acts foreshadowed a reign of terror that would grip the nation and forever stain his name in infamy. Arrest. On December 21, 1978, the authorities nabbed Gacy for handling narcotics while under watch. A search at his place unveiled a crawl space with bones. In custody the next day, Gacy confessed to taking the lives of 32 men, providing a map to their burial spots under his house. By December 30th, 29 bodies were unearthed. On January 8, 1979, he faced charges for 7 murders, plus other heinous crimes. He pleaded not guilty. On April 23rd, 26 more murder charges came, totaling 33. His trial kicked off on February 6, 1980. His lawyers pitched insanity, prosecutors pushed for the death penalty. On March 12, 1980, Gacy was convicted in under 2 hours and sentenced the next day. Appeals failed, and on May 10, 1994, Gacy faced lethal injection at Stateville Correctional Center. Peacock's 2021 documentary adds twists. David Cram and Michael Rossi, Gacy's workers, implicated him. Gacy accused them too, but the officer believed Gacy acted alone. Tovar's account hints at more victims. Ex-cop Bill Dorsch witnessed Gacy with a shovel, yet police ignored it. The documentary explores this and raises the possibility of more victims. Bill Dorsch, a former Chicago detective who knew Gacy, saw him with a shovel in the middle of the night at his mother's apartment building. He reported it after Gacy's arrest, but police didn't dig immediately. In 2017, DNA identified victim 24 as Jimmy Hawkinson, a 16-year-old from Minnesota. 6 remain unidentified. Peacock's documentary hints at more victims. Officer Tovar recalls Gacy mentioning 45 sounds like a good number. When asked about the 12 bodies, Gacy shrugged it off. Gacy, a serial liar, maintained innocence, but Tovar believed his honesty at that moment. The documentary raises questions about Gacy's associates and whether there are more victims. In 2011, Sheriff Tom Dart aimed to identify the 8 remaining victims. DNA technology led to William George Bundy's identification in 2012. Marino's case, however, got complicated. Sherry Marino doubted her son's identity, and his DNA didn't match. Police still counted him as a victim. Unmasking darkness. A chilling mystery from the shadows of John Wayne Gacy's sinister past, a once unidentified victim, Frederick Wayne Alexander, emerges from the darkness. Gacy, the notorious serial killer who preyed on 33 young lives in the 1970s, left a haunting trail of horror. Among the unidentified victims, Frederick Wayne Alexander, aged 21 or 22, met his tragic end at Gacy's ranch home in Norridge, near Chicago. A twisted tale of torture unfolded within Gacy's house of horrors. Breaking the silence of decades, modern, forensic tools and genetic genealogy techniques pierced through the veil of anonymity surrounding Alexander. As the relentless pursuit of truth continues, another piece of the Gacy puzzle falls into place. The infamous criminal meticulously concealed 26 bodies in the crawlspace beneath his home, using quicklime to accelerate their decay. He scattered other victims across his property and callously disposed of a few in a nearby river. His heinous acts targeted young men he picked up from bus stops or lured off the streets with promises of drinks, food, or money. Gacy's macabre history included a prior conviction for assaulting a young lad coupled with an attempt to silence the victim through violence. A brief stint in prison did little to deter his gruesome pursuits, as he relocated to the ranch where the majority of his killings unfolded. Publicly, Gacy wore a facade of philanthropy, engaging in fundraising and participating in charitable organizations. However, behind the painted smile of his clown personas, Pogo and Patches, he concealed a dark reality. Gacy, a part-time clown, performed at children's parties, leveraging his innocent guise to facilitate his sinister schemes. During his reign of terror, Gacy's method involved luring victims to his lair, gaining their trust with food and drinks, and then exploiting his clown persona to demonstrate magic tricks. Handcuffing himself and escaping with a hidden key, he played a sick game before subjecting his victims to unspeakable horrors. The Killer Clown earned his grisly moniker through this horrifying modus operandi. Nearly half a century later, the relentless pursuit of justice continues. The Cook County Sheriff's Office, in collaboration with the DNA Doe Project, utilizes genetic genealogy to unmask the unknown. This groundbreaking technique combines DNA records with genealogical data, reconstructing family ties through newspaper reports, public records, and family trees. Sheriff Tom Dart believes this method will be pivotal in uncovering the identities of other long-lost victims. In a recent breakthrough, Frederick Wayne Alexander's estranged connection to his family became apparent. His disappearance, unnoticed by his family, finally finds closure, shedding light on a dark chapter in their history. Carolyn Sanders, Mr. Alexander's sister, reflects on the agonizing revelation, stating, "It is hard, even 45 years later, to know the fate of our beloved Wayne. Despite the sorrow, there's relief in finally understanding his tragic end, marking a moment to honor and move forward." In the relentless pursuit of justice, genetic genealogy unveils the faces of the forgotten victims, ensuring that the shadows of the past can no longer conceal the truth. The legacy of John Wayne Gacy's heinous acts slowly unravels one victim at a time, allowing families to lay their loved ones to rest and find solace in closure. Trials. In the annals of criminal history, February 6, 1980, marked the commencement of John Wayne Gacy's trial for perpetrating 33 heinous deaths in Cook County, Illinois. Judge Louis Garippo presided over the proceedings, with a jury sourced from Rockford due to the intense media scrutiny in Cook County. Preceding the trial, Gacy, at the behest of his defense counsel, underwent an extensive evaluation at the Menard Correctional Center. Over 300 hours were dedicated to psychological examinations to ascertain his mental fitness for trial. Gacy, in a strategic move, asserted the existence of multiple personalities, including a diligent contractor, a whimsical clown, an active politician, and a law enforcement persona named Bad Jack. The defense strategically opted for a plea of not guilty because of insanity. Defense attorney Robert Mata delivered a bold opening statement asserting, "The insanity defense is valid. If Gacy is normal, then our concept of normality is distorted." The defense painted a complex portrait of Gacy, akin to a Jekyll and Hyde dichotomy, supported by psychiatric experts who diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia and multiple personalities. Prosecutors vehemently countered, parading witnesses who outlined Gacy's calculated actions and meticulous attempts to elude detection. Disputing claims of multiple personalities, the prosecution spotlighted instances where Gacy exhibited control, even overseeing tasks in his crawl space. Medical examiner Robert Stein chillingly detailed the grim findings of the victims, emphasizing that the bodies were markedly decomposed, with diverse causes of death. Gacy's defense attempted to propose accidental erotic asphyxia as a cause, but Stein swiftly dismissed it as highly improbable. Survivors Jeffrey Rignall and Donald Voorhees took the stand, narrating their horrific encounters and underscoring Gacy's sadistic tendencies. The defense's plea for a mistrial was promptly rejected by Judge Garippo, who underscored Gacy's agency in legal decisions. March 11th witnessed the climax of the trial with final arguments. Prosecutor Terry Sullivan painted Gacy as the worst of all killers, citing a history of misusing youths and portraying surviving victims as the living dead. Defense counsel Sam Amarante countered, portraying Gacy as driven by uncontrollable compulsions, urging the jury to consider a verdict of not guilty by reason of insanity. Prosecutor William Kunkel dismantled the defense's insanity narrative, presenting Gacy as a logical thinker with a history of antisocial behavior. Kunkel concluded by displaying photos of the victims, urging the jury to prioritize justice over sympathy. In a historic moment, the jury deliberated for 1 hour and 50 minutes, delivering a resounding verdict. Gacy was found guilty. In the subsequent sentencing phase, the jury took over 2 hours to condemn him to death for each life he took post, 1977, setting the stage for his execution on June 2, 1980. Confession. On the evening of December 20th, as the night loomed, Gacy pulled up to his lawyer's office in Park Ridge. A meeting was on the agenda, ostensibly for his civil suit. Gacy, on edge and disheveled, cut to the chase, demanding a drink. Seagram whiskey was fetched, and Gacy downed 2 cups. Amarante, his lawyer, growing suspicious, pressed for the big news. "Something important!" Gacy, holding the Daily Herald, pointed to the front-page article on Robert Piest's disappearance, stating, "This boy is dead, he's dead. He's in a river." A rambling confession ensued, stretching into the early morning. Gacy, the self-proclaimed judge, jury, and executioner, spilled the beans. At least 30 victims buried in his crawl space, 5 others dumped in the Des Plaines River. Gacy dismissed them as escorts, hustlers, and liars. He'd wake up to find the dead bodies with cuffed hands, deeming them his property, burying them beneath his floor. In the haze of alcohol, Gacy conked out mid-confession. Amirante wasted no time, scheduling a psychiatric appointment for Gacy in the morning. Upon waking, Gacy, informed of his 30-odd body count, brushed it off. "Well, I can't think about this right now. I've got things to do." Ignoring counsel, he headed off to attend to his business. With a foggy recollection of his last day of freedom, he knew the inevitable was coming. He intended to say his goodbyes. At a gas station, he handed over a bag of cannabis with a foreboding message: "The end is coming, for me." A tearful confession to a friend followed. "I've been a bad boy. I killed 30 people, give or take a few." Holding a rosary, he prayed while cruising the expressway. After conversations with pals Cram and Rossi, Gacy visited Maryhill Cemetery, his father's final resting place. Meanwhile, police drafted a second search warrant, suspecting Gacy might do something drastic. With a charge of illegal possession, they snatched him to buy time. On December 21st, just before the civil suit hearing, the second search warrant landed. Gacy, defiant, denied Piest's presence in the crawl space, but spilled the beans about a self-defense victim buried under his garage. Armed with the warrant, police hit Gacy's home. He'd flooded the crawl space, attempting to erase evidence. Undeterred, technicians drained the water and dug in. Within minutes, they hit pay dirt, putrefied flesh, and a human arm bone. "I think this place is full of kids," shouted a tech. A macabre excavation unfolded, revealing a gruesome tableau of decomposed victims. The scale of Gacy's monstrous acts laid bare. Death. Locked away in Menard Correctional Center for 14 long years, Gacy found an unexpected outlet for his dark thoughts in the form of painting. Confined to his prison cell, he unleashed a spectrum of emotions on canvas, drawing inspiration from unlikely sources: clowns, Christ, birds, skulls, his own residence, and even the notorious John Dillinger. Unbelievably, Gacy's macabre artwork not only made its way to exhibitions but also found buyers at auctions. But even before the courtroom drama unfolded, Gacy reached out to journalist Russ Ewing, granting him a series of interviews from 1979 to 1981. This collaboration with author Tim Cahill bore fruit in the form of the book Buried Dreams. The chilling details he disclosed to Ewing played a crucial role in unmasking the identity of his first victim. The twisted tale took a violent turn on February 15, 1983, when Henry Brisbane, also a death row inmate dubbed the I-57 killer, attacked Gacy. A sharpened wire became the weapon, injuring Gacy's arm. Swift medical attention at the prison hospital saved the notorious criminal. Behind bars, Gacy transformed into a self-styled legal expert. Poring over law books, he filed endless motions and appeals, each one met with defeat. His legal battles ranged from challenging the validity of the initial search warrant in 1978 to objecting to his lawyer's insanity plea. In a bizarre twist, Gacy claimed that he only had some knowledge of 5 of his victims, shifting the blame for the other 28 onto employees with access to his house during his business trips. The climax approached in mid-1984 when the Supreme Court of Illinois greenlit Gacy's execution by lethal injection on November 14th. Unyielding, Gacy filed an appeal, but the Supreme Court of the United States swiftly rejected it on March 4, 1985. Undeterred, he attempted one last desperate plea for a new trial in 1986, arguing that his defense counsel in 1980 had been inadequate. However, this petition met a dead end on September 11, 1986. Gacy, relentless in his pursuit of life, appealed the 1985 decision. The court stood firm on September 29, 1988, announcing a new execution date of January 11, 1989. As the U.S. Supreme Court slammed the door on Gacy's final appeal in October 1993, the Illinois Supreme Court set in stone the execution date for May 10, 1994. The hands of justice were closing in on the man who had terrorized the nation with his heinous crimes. Last days. John Wayne Gacy, the Chicago suburban businessman with a sinister secret life as Pogo the Clown and Patches the Clown, etched his name in history as America's most notorious serial criminal. Convicted in March 1980 for taking the lives of 33 boys and young men, his chilling crimes surpassed the macabre, involving luring, binding, strangling, and burying victims across his property. Facing a death sentence, Gacy remained unfazed about the impending lethal injection. Instead, his focus shifted to a surprising concern: money matters. Illinois had filed a lawsuit aiming to claim his earnings from activities during his incarceration, such as selling his artwork and a controversial 900 number proclaiming his innocence. Despite the gruesome nature of his deeds, Gacy exhibited an unexpected side. Described by his death row attorney, Karen Conti, as an amusing character. He even had a pen pal professing love for him. Yet when asked about marriage, Gacy scoffed, citing the pen pal's family's criminal history. Gacy's final journey to execution involved a helicopter ride from Menard Correctional Center to Stateville Penitentiary near Chicago. His last day was oddly normal, filled with casual talks about the Chicago Cubs and a final meal of fried chicken, fried shrimp, French fries, and fresh strawberries. In the hours leading to his death, Gacy, surprisingly, avoided discussing his impending execution. Rather, he engaged in socializing with those visiting him for the last time, maintaining a pleasant demeanor. The atmosphere outside the prison was a stark contrast. Supporters and protesters gathered, creating a tense environment. Gacy's neighbors, despite his heinous crimes, displayed unexpected adoration. On the other side, prosecutors involved in the case celebrated with a pre-execution dinner, echoing the festivities preceding Ted Bundy's execution in 1989. As the clock approached midnight, Gacy was ushered to the execution chamber. Demonstrators outside, both for and against the death penalty, added to the charged atmosphere. Inside, he faced the lethal injection with no last words spoken. A clog in the IV line delayed the process briefly, but Gacy was pronounced dead at 12:58 a.m. on May 10, 1994. For Karen Conti, who had come to know Gacy through her role as his attorney, his death marked a challenging moment. Despite the sociopathic nature of Gacy's crimes, Conti reflected on the impact of the government's decision to execute, emphasizing the profound effect it had on her as a human being. Dark legacy. A bone-chilling mystery that has lingered for over 3 decades, detectives have clandestinely exhumed the remains of 8 anonymous young men discovered beneath the infamous John Wayne Gacy's residence. The question haunting investigators: who were these victims? The Cook County Sheriff's Department asserts that the enigma surrounding one of the nation's most notorious serial killers can be unraveled through DNA testing. Now, they're reaching out to the public, seeking assistance in putting a name to the faceless victims, calling on the kin of those who vanished between 1970 and Gacy's 1978 apprehension. Detectives urge them to undergo saliva tests. The aim? A simple comparison of DNA with the skeletal remains might finally bring closure to the grim puzzle. Time, it seems, could be an ally in this pursuit. Families who never reported their loved ones missing during Gacy's reign of terror might now be willing to step forward. Detective Jason Moran expresses hope that societal attitudes have evolved, allowing people to rise above past disagreements and biases. I'm hoping the stigma has lessened, that people can put family disagreements and biases against intimate orientation and drug use behind them to give these victims a name, Moran stated. Sheriff Tom Dart adds a pragmatic perspective, acknowledging the myriad reasons someone might not have come forward earlier. The passage of time has scattered families across the country, making the search for answers even more challenging. Setting up a nationwide phone bank, the Sheriff's Department is casting a wide net, anticipating calls from relatives who might be scattered far and wide. John Wayne Gacy, infamous not just for his heinous crimes, but also for his bizarre alter ego as an amateur clown, was convicted of assassinating 33 young men. His modus operandi included impersonating a police officer or promising employment to lure victims into his Chicago area home. Executed in 1994, the scars of his actions still reverberate today. Recent events saw a judge granting a request to exhume the remains of one victim, questioning the initial findings. Sheriff Dart reveals that other families share this need for certainty, emphasizing that these young men had futures and families who cared. As the plan unfolded earlier this year, it originated from detectives attempting to identify scattered human bones in a forest preserve. This investigative thread led them back to the haunting legacy of John Wayne Gacy, reigniting a quest for answers that has spanned generations.